There we go. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome to the Town of Pownell Special Select Board Meeting, December 4th, 2025 at 6:02 PM. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Everyone rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board member roll call. Strohmeyer,
Alexander.
Mike Gardner.
Jamie Persky, Brian Harris.
Okay, so first, I want to thank everyone who has worked on these plans. I've gone through them cover to cover. Tessa, yours is 50-something pages long. So, yeah, I know. So before we even start, I would absolutely want to thank everyone, Park and Rec, Concom, everyone who's worked on these, the county forester. I don't think we've left too many stones unturned on these plans, from what I've seen. I'm sure there's gonna be some questions. I have some questions. But honestly, great job before we even get started from everybody involved. Thank you. So, Pownell Town Forest Timber Management Plan, presentation and discussion with our county forester.
Yep, I have a PowerPoint to discussion, presentation. Is that
Tessa, do you wanna hold questions to the end if we have them, or how would you rather do it?
I think you can, let me get a start and
Yep.
then I'll pause for questions. And if you feel moved to jump in at any point, you can.
Okay,
I might say, we'll get to that, but.
oh, okay, no, that's fine.
Does that
I just
make
want,
sense?
right, I just want you to do your thing.
Sure. Should I stand? Should I mean?
It's up to you.
Whatever you wanna do.
Wherever you're comfortable with, yeah.
Stay sitting. This is
Yeah.
intimate. If that's okay, I have. Thank you. So, hi, I'm Tessa McGann. I've met some of you online, but most of you I haven't met before. I'm your county forester. I've been covering, I started off just covering Rutland County, and I started covering Pownell just over a year ago. And now my territory is all over the place, but I am your county forester. I work for the state of Vermont, Forest Parks and Rec in the private lands division. So mostly I work with private landowners, but one of the cool parts of my job is that I do get to work with towns on municipally owned lands. So that's why I'm here. Tara reached out to me when I started covering this area to write a management plan for this newly acquired large piece of land. And I finally got out there this summer, and today we're going to talk about what I saw. And I definitely have a lot of it's going to be discussion about some potential options for management in the future. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Big overview, it's a big piece of land, over 1,000 acres, 1,053.52 according to our map calculations using GIS. This is the largest, I'll just want to start by saying this is the largest piece of land I've ever managed. So I know the plan is really long. Part of it, I think I can improve my formatting. I'm used to writing for like 200 acres at tops usually. So it's a big project. It's a big piece of land. It's also super steep. And I just can see the picture, all that green, that's everything that's over 35% slope, which by some technical definitions of the state, that's what we consider steep slope. We usually treat those areas a little differently. So over 60% of the parcels, quote unquote, steep. These are all the points that I visited. Well, I didn't visit all of them. A couple other county foresters helped me do the inventory this July. But we went to 102 points where we actually measured trees, identified trees, gathered a lot of data at those for the forest as we moved around. Based on that data collection and those visits, you can see, sorry, you can see the, can you see my mouse here? it's a little bit of lag. This is the first day we did these points in this really steep area, and we said we cannot do this many points on this house. So then I went back and cut down the number of points that we did in the steepest sections. Okay, so based on that, we can classify this forest into 5 broad cover types. The yellow here, the orange, golden yellow, those are the dry oak communities. Those are the mountaintops and the super steep south-facing slopes where you have, it's a lot of oak that are beaten by the wind and ice. So they're small, there's not a lot of nutrients in those soils, and it's open canopy, and the understory is a lot of thick mountain laurel and blueberry and huckleberry. Awesome wildlife habitat, really special sites, some really rare natural communities for our state are here. Part of it is because you're so far south, you get more southern species than we get pretty much anywhere else in the state. So they're special places, not timber producing places, but they're really cool to have on your forest. The green areas are where it's super steep north facing, that's pretty much all hemlock. The purple is where it starts to level out a little bit. It's also more the bowl-shaped areas where you have more nutrients and soil and water accumulating, so you can grow more of our typical Vermont species, the sugar maple, beech birch. Those are our typical suite of northern hardwoods. The red is where it's more convex shaped, but also a little more level. So a lot of those nutrients are still, they're well-drained soils, a little bit drier, a little bit warmer. You get more red oaks coming in. Those are the red oak northern hardwoods. There's more white pine in those areas too. And then finally, the blue are just the riparian zones along the bottom of the 2 hollows there. So that's like broad, that's kind of what you have going on. It's a mix of timber quality, definitely better timber in the more bowl-shaped north-facing, gentler slopes. It's pretty rough in other areas. There is some history of high grading there for sure, where people were cutting out the best of the best and leaving the rest, but there's a lot to work with. It's a really, really cool property. And of course, we can't just work with 5 different zones for management purposes. It's broken into 21 different stands. They're all distinct from each other and I think should be treated distinctly. I'm not going to go in and describe all 21 of them tonight. Yeah, but I am gonna, so basically our discussion is breaking it down a little bit more to talk about the different management options for different areas. I don't know how well this will show up. It's not great. What just turned darker, I guess from here to here, there's some hatch marks. It's not great quality on the screen, but that's all reserve areas that I think should go into reserve. Basically not suitable for traditional timber management, traditional forest management. It's hard to tell. I'm going to go back to this version of the map. It's still hard to see from here, but those are those oak areas, those special dry oak mountaintop sites. It's the really steep hemlock sites, and it's the riparian zones. And all of those areas, I think, just off the bat, those are pretty much a leave as is. Treatment for different reasons. I have some, they're special sites ecologically. A lot of them have sensitive soils or super steep slopes. You wouldn't want to operate on there anyway. They're already performing their ecological functions. I think if it was a situation where they're being overrun with plants, then we'd want to do something, but still that something wouldn't be bringing a harvester in and cutting trees. But right now they're all in pretty good shape. And that's right off the bat, that's 343 acres, about a third of the parcel.
Okay.
I'm recommending. I'm going to pause now. Any questions on that much?
Go ahead, you first.
Well, I just want to add one little interesting piece of context here. So this section right at the top of the forest here is a spot where there's been some evidence of sort of pre-European and early European sort of settlements and potential archaeological sites. So that's an area where we've made contact with the local Stockbridge, Muncie, and Mohicans. We don't have any specific plans, but we hope to kind of protect that area for the time being until we.
Is that parcel 21?
Yes.
21, yep.
So I read your plan pretty much cover to cover. Yeah.
Pass. To say there's a lot more that
I'm sure.
I want to do.
So I think the plan, I think the designated reserve I think this is an incredibly thorough plan. And I think that the only question that I have on this, these portions, the 343 acres, some of those seemed like they needed some erosion control work, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. So what we're talking about these particular plans, and the question is that something that we should consider having to have done? Like in the fairly near future, or is it a 10-year process?
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's a whole conversation that we can,
I'm sure.
I have more to say on that, but the quick answer is, you have you have a lot of trails on this property. I have another slide that shows kind of like what we have mapped. A lot of them are in poor condition. I didn't walk every bit of trail on this property, but it's definitely gradient. I have some notes about where it's more urgent, where it's less urgent. There's a saying that there's no such thing as a forest emergency. So I think ideally we are able to restore a lot of those trails over the next 10 to 15 years. It doesn't have to happen all at once.
Okay, that answers my question. Perfect.
Okay,
I got a question of the beach. How was the health on that?
not good. I'm gonna talk about that more too.
Okay, because I have a question, another question.
Okay. All right, okay, so, all right, so about 32% are pretty much not going to manage. So that's 68% that I think you could manage. And I would recommend being in, taking a more active approach. Why manage? I wanted to just give a little bit about my management philosophy. I don't want to take up too much time. These are just some of the timber management goals that are in the integrated management plan that I agree with. Managing for promoting old forest characteristics, structural diversity, and controlling invasive species, improving wildlife habitat, and supporting sustainable timber production. I believe in all of these things. My big idea is we're not coming to a pristine ecosystem. Our forests naturally developed over thousands of years. And then settlers cut them down. And what's regrown is maybe like on average 150 years old, versus thousands of years old. That's not that old. It's not really resilient, not super healthy. It's like baby age. And there's a lot that we can do to make it more resilient, make it more healthy. At the same time, we are continuing to introduce invasive pests and pathogens. There are other reasons that I think we can be intentional about helping to support that forest to be more healthy, and at the same time harvest really incredible sustainable resource that is our New England timber. So everything that I suggest doing in the plan is largely because I think it's an opportune time to sort of push that needle towards having a healthier landscape and some nice timber. These pictures are, I see it covered up. I don't need to, this is sort of going into the details about what that looks like. I'm going to skip over that for now. But on top of all that, I want to bring up beech leaf disease. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. Okay. So it's a nematode, it's not a disease. It's impacting the leaves and the ability of trees to photosynthesize. It's relatively new to North America. So new to North America that we haven't even confirmed where it comes from. We have a good idea, but that research isn't even published yet. We're seeing it play out, but it's too soon to tell exactly how that's going to happen in Vermont. But it is killing trees very quickly, and it's traveling very quickly. It's all over your town forest, and actually, like the worst I've seen it in Vermont. Yeah.
I own land up next to the Bennington Forest, and I know that beach. Is it the same? I don't know if you've been up in there on the Pownell side.
I've only been up there once when they were doing.
Okay, you go through my property to get up to, all right, and I've got all kinds of beach up there, and I'm just, so that I can get my head around how bad the beach is.
Like here? Or
like there.
Yeah, so here, I mean, this isn't a great picture. There's more pictures on iPads that in an app that we have to get a license for. Again, it's a whole thing, but you're just wondering how bad it is on the forest.
I'm curious on how bad it is, because I know how bad it is on mine.
So it looks like it's been around for a couple years. In the first year when it shows up, you can see it in the leaves. just as like stripes in between the veins. Parts of your forest in the understory beech, so the smaller seedlings and saplings, it looks like it's more, the leaves are coming out crinkled. That's a more advanced stage, or not coming out at all. When you look out, instead of a wall of green beech leaves, like it is in a lot of our forest, it looks barren and scary. It's not, I'm not seeing it kill any beech yet, which would make, I think that would take 5 to 8 years, but it's definitely.
Does it show signs on the bark?
No, that's beech bark.
Okay, I've got beech bark.
Beech bark disease is that a lot of the trees also have beech bark disease, and that one's been around since the 70s.
Okay,
It does kill the trees eventually, but it's much more slow acting. Beech leaf disease.
I haven't seen, I haven't been up to parts of the world.
Yeah. I'm sure there's beech bark.
I'm sure there
Beech
is.
bark disease pretty much everywhere. There are, so the interesting thing is there are pockets of the town forest with cleaner beech. So that's where the bark is nice and smooth. That means it's genetically resistant to the beech bark disease. And for a while, we've been trying to promote those trees, but they haven't been shown to have any resistance to the beech leaf disease, which is a big bummer. Beech are really important for wildlife, the nut production. I'm sure a lot of you know, this is a picture of a bear clawmark climbing beech to eat nuts. It's not from the town forest, but I did find a number of them on your town forest. So that's all to say, I'm worried about that just across the state. And I'm not advocating, no one's advocating that we go out and cut all the beech because we don't know how this is going to play out. But there are scenarios where the beech dies or starts to die, but they have such a thick layer of leaves that prevent the regeneration of a lot of other trees. And if it just becomes a big massive deadwood, no one's going to want to do anything in there. And so in one stand, at least, I am thinking about cutting small groups of beech where there's oak present to try to start regenerating the more species. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. There are places where I don't want it. There's so much beech, I don't want to mess with it because we want to see how this is going to play out. But that's just an important consideration.
So just out of curiosity, what are the possibilities of how it plays out? I mean, is it the possibility that the beech trees have this leaf disease, but they continue to grow and they stay healthy, or do we know that they're all probably going to die?
We think that most of them will die.
Yeah.
That's it. First showed up in Ohio, and I don't know the numbers on what percentage, but most of them have died. There are pockets. I mean, there are some that are hanging on, and we don't know how long they'll hang on, why they're hanging on.
On average, how long?
How long before they die? I think 5 to 10
5 to
years.
10.
Yeah.
Is there an issue with the beech when you cut it? I've been told that if you cut the beech at the wrong time of year,
It'll resprout.
then you
Yes.
have more problems. You end up with more problems.
Yeah, but that's true. But that's a combination of other factors lead to that too.
Okay.
And so it's not like never cut a beech.
Oh, no, you cut a beech. You
Yeah.
cut the beech once.
But that is it's another important consideration. And that's something that's another thing. It may play out that when beech are stressed, they send out more root sprouts. So they might get stressed by the beech leaf disease, send out root sprouts, the main tree dies, the root sprouts get stressed, it might just become this never-ending cycle of unhealthy beech sprouts. But which is not a vibrant ecosystem. So. But Vermont, maybe the climate is different, maybe they're more resistant, like we don't know. There's a chance that we might have a higher percentage of resistance, or by the time it gets really bad, we find some strategies to help protect the beech, things like, it's still too early to know. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move forward. The next thing is the trails, which you brought up. As I said, a lot of them are in bad condition. This is just a trail that's eroding. I'm moving on. I wish you could see this better. All those little squiggly dots are trails. There's a preponderance of them. A lot of them are eroded. When you're doing timber harvesting, you have the equipment out there to make the repairs already. There's also the factor of income from the timber harvest being reinvested back into trail repair. So those are just another thing to think about when we think about managing, and a reason to manage.
Well, that was the only reason I asked the question.
Yeah.
Honestly.
So, and I don't know what your plans are in terms of how, if you do a timber harvest and make money, what your plans are to do with that money, but I always advocate for investing it back into our resources. But anything else to say on that before
No, I think you're like, your plan was, like I said, really thorough and a lot of the stands. You alluded to where trails were good and where trails needed a lot of maintenance, right?
Yeah, and so this is a summary of that, so,
Right.
and I differentiated by places where they weren't up to the state standards, acceptable management practices, maybe they're lacking water bars or things like that, but they weren't, or I didn't see active erosion. And then there are areas where there were active erosion, so those are the areas we would pay attention to first. All right. So that, all of that said, here are the 8 stands where I think something could be done in the next 10 to 15 years. And the next thing I want to point out is that most of those stands are in the northern part of the property in Reservoir Hollow, where you don't have direct access to the road. And that is a problem, because taking that wood up and over the mountain to get to your access would be really cost prohibitive. Just really difficult. I don't think we want all that wood trafficking through those sensitive sites. Just overall, I would prefer to find an alternative route. And this is pulling up some of those trails again. And it does look like there are historic trails that lead, and people have taken timber out through alternative ways, through neighboring lands before. I picture these 2 harvests going out the established access, and the rest of these sort of coming out through the north, if that's possible. So that's the next conversation is, I don't know how much you can speak to that tonight, but what I'm curious about your thoughts on the likelihood of getting agreements with neighbors, if that's something you want to pursue, if that's something you want to pursue now, revisit the idea in 10 years.
Well, I think there's a couple things that have to go along with this, right? First, I think we've been waiting a while for this plan and for the other plan, right?
Right.
And just because it's just taking time, because it's 1,053 acres. So I don't think that we should be sitting here tonight and making a decision that we're gonna just start harvesting in 2 months or whatever, right?
I wouldn't.
Exactly.
All of this, at least a couple of years.
So, right, so your plan, this comprehensive plan that you have here is set up on a 10-year plan, the way I read it,
Yeah.
2026 to 2036.
Yes.
So a lot of your recommendations in this plan were not to do anything for the first 10 years. And then I highlighted, went through in the different stands, the 21 different ones, there's the 8 that had. So that was my question, gonna be my question to you at one point. I don't know if this is the right time to ask it, but I'm gonna ask it now. And if it's not the right time to answer, feel free to tell me. With the 8 parcels or stands, whatever you want to call them, right? The 8 separate stands that you have, I don't call them parcels, but 8 separate stands that you have identified as stands that could sustainably be managed for logging, whatever, right, cut in the next 10 years. Is there a place that we should start?
Right.
Or should consider starting?
Yeah, I would say nothing is urgent again.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
I think if the issues of access were not on the table, I would start in stand like 18 and 19. I would have said stand 21 because that's where you have the most issues with invasive plants, and I think you have jumping worm, earthworm problem. The biggest problem is the next generation there in my eyes. But knowing that is a historical site, so maybe that's off the table. I would have said stand 21. Barring that, I think this pocket in Reservoir Hollow where there's places where I think there's some issues with regeneration. And by that, I mean, there's not a really thriving young next generation of trees. And I think we can do some work to get that going. And at the same time, there's a really nice timber resource in stands 14 and 15 that I think could help fund trail work and basic work in those areas. and it's dense, and so it's a good time to take advantage of some of that while also allowing more room to grow, and again, starting that next generation to use all of it. So
I just wanted to say, in the past, I think access to that area has been a problem because it was more for like recreation purposes, but I think if it was for timber harvesting, we could get agreements
I'm sure.
more easily, because it would be for a set amount of time.
it would be a set, yeah.
And it would be
okay.
different than just open access.
Yes, not just general public.
Right, exactly.
So those would be, but with given the access, then, you know, I would, yeah, that, I guess I'll leave it there. That's what I would recommend.
Because what I took from this entire plan, right, is that the nature of the species of trees is very similar throughout the whole. I mean, you have sections of hemlock and you have sections of whatever, but it's the whole entire thousand.
It's fairly consistent.
Right, it stays pretty consistent. So the way correct me if I'm wrong, right? At this point, if we said we were gonna start some sustainable logging, right, some sustainable forest management, so it's not gonna be just logging, right? But some sustainable forest management, we can start on the two parcels where we could get it access directly.
Right.
And then we could, as we're working on the access to get the lumber out on 18, 19, with the rest of them.
It's pretty much exactly what I was thinking. I mean, for multiple reasons, but that being one of them is just to stagger this work. Part of it is that I cannot mark and put out a job this big.
Well, right, but we also.
But also to sort of, for wanting to diversify across the whole parcel, if you're
Right.
opening up some areas for younger generation here, having it be staggered out in other parts of the area, in terms of keeping areas open for recreation, just all of it.
Well, one of the things that I found very interesting in this, in your plan, in your research was you identified, a lot of wildlife habitat areas that were already there, or they've already been established. There's things that, we really don't want to get in and go crazy. Although sustainable logging will increase the wildlife habitat
In other areas.
in the other areas that don't have it, right? So I just, like I said, it's a pretty thorough, it's a pretty thorough plan. You covered there's a lot of things that I think when you actually sit down and read the plan, there's everything that I think should be in the plan is there. You identified bear habitat and where, identified bobcats and different, deer yard area type, you identified a lot of things. That's incredibly important that I think gets missed on a lot of management plans where you just come in and you say, okay, we're just gonna cut 8 and 9 and we don't care. We're just gonna go in and we're gonna take out, X number of trees and we're gonna log off all the saw logs now and be done with it. I don't like that. I don't think it's a sustainable plan. I think this is. I think it's a really good plan.
I got a question on the maples. What is the health of the maples?
It varies across the property.
Yep.
There are pockets where they're very healthy.
Yeah.
Those are more in the bowls.
Yes.
Where they're, and then, but like in stand 21, stand 18, there's a lot more maple borer, and there's more snapping off. They're
Okay.
generally struggling. Stand 21 has a lot of smaller saw log, pole size maples that seem to
Okay.
the craft, just not vigorous. Yeah. It's mixed.
So are you gonna get to tonight, talking a bit more about the enhanced food foraging resources? Because I'm extremely interested in that. For a couple of reasons, but.
That's cool. No. That's one that was on the timber management goals, and I just from the integrated plan, and I copied them here, and then I was like, oh, that's one that I think is very cool and I'm excited about, and I do not know so much about.
So that came from Mike Fernandez.
I knew it was Michael. I could feel him all over it. I mean, that's one of the responses to, or one of the objections to, in part, like we thought about, is the 30 by 30 plan. And that was like really not seeing the amount of food that we actually have available in the forest and what it would look like to be able to like start sustainably harvesting food along with trees.
Yeah.
So,
That's something I'm interested in. And
Okay.
no expertise.
okay.
So, but I would be happy to connect with Mike and maybe think about in the next draft of this that I put out, maybe
Totally.
incorporating a little bit more of that intentionally.
That would be great.
Well, I think this is an incredible start, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's so
Oh,
many.
no, I love it.
There's so many things that the sustainable food where people could go in and forage and
Yeah.
do whatever, right?
That would be so cool. Yeah.
Right, and, but, you know, you still have to have that sustainable forest management. And what I, like I said, what I really liked about this is we're not going in and we're gonna clear top 10 acres, right? Some of the stands that you said we could cut,
Yeah.
you know, those 8, you know, it was cutting a 2 acre or no more than a 2 to 4 acre spot or whatever, right?
This is not, I mean, this isn't, this is a quick slide. But yeah, so some areas, the patch cuts, those are bigger opening 2 to 4, other areas, group selection, that's up to 2 acres max. And then kind of different crop tree release, you're going around and finding the trees you want to get bigger and you're only cutting around them. Single tree selection is more, you're going throughout the whole forest and removing things to regenerate younger trees, not just release the bigger trees.
Right.
And then irregular shelter wood is kind of the weirdest one I had in there. But it's a bigger opening, but you're leaving, in this case, would be leaving a good component of oak to try to regenerate oak. And that's a stand where there's a lot of declining beech, where I think you could do that in a few pockets. And I think it would be cool. That's the very quick summary of what the prescriptions are themselves, but they're all open to tweaking and yeah. I guess my takeaway at this point, just to sort of try to summarize what I've heard, open to all of it except stand 21, we're going to take off the table for now. Thinking about having a staggered timeline, which might look like some of those further north stands, maybe even putting off into the next management plan. I'll propose a timeline that staggers it, but we're interested in pursuing the option of getting the wood out through neighboring land. And I'll name that in the plan. And if we can't make it happen, we can amend the plan as needed. Yeah.
Can I just throw one more thing into the mix? So the stands that are in Camp Valley, these kind of 2 that we have better access to, you know, Camp Valley is also the place where we have access for all the sort of recreational stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that if we have an intent to do this, I think that recreation could generate as much money as logging could potentially. Through, you know, camping, through, you know, and just through sort of I mean, I guess I'm not trying to say we shouldn't log there. I'm saying just I want to make sure that if we are going to log this area, we're taking into consideration the fact that this is the only place where we can really get access to right now for people to walk around to.
Well, I
And I
think,
would,
no, go ahead, Justin.
so I just would say, I would want to work with the recreation. I know that to be true, and I would want to work with that. And I don't want to hide the harvesting. I mean, I think that can totally coexist.
Totally.
But I would certainly work with you to identify recreation areas where we do want to keep like off the table. And none of this harvesting would happen across the entire.
Yeah, and I think there is room to do that. Certainly, I think really both of those stands, you know, our trails do kind of for the most part kind of cut up in the middle there. So yeah, we'll just have to kind of be careful about where we do it. And just trying to maintain while we're logging to be able to maintain some amount of access for it.
Yeah, I know that recreation is a huge, just like a huge goal.
Logging will give us access to.
Well, so Nathan, I think that, in my opinion, right, obviously, generating some income, whether we use it for trail repair and maintenance or road repair and maintenance, or so it doesn't come out of the general budget, or whether we use it for other things, right? That's kind of a board decision. I'm not so sure that should be one of our top priorities, right? I think it should be up towards the top, okay, but I'm not sure that should be the top. I think what's happened and I have not walked this stand as much as some other people sitting in this room, I'll be honest with you. But just in general, logging and wood cutting has for years not been done for a sustainable forest.
Hasn't been done correctly.
It's been done for a profit only situation, right? I mean, I think we all can agree on, I think Tesla could agree on that too, that generally speaking, when she goes in, it's a for-profit.
You're not high grading.
You're,
No.
and here, at least from my standpoint, I'm not looking for a for-profit operation. I'm looking to sustain this 1,000 acres for the next 200 years,
Yes.
right? And to make it thrive and to make it just a better forest area for everything, for food, for foraging, right? For recreation, for wildlife, for all of the things that sustainable foresting, and help me out, that doing a sustainable forest management is gonna help thrive, right? It's gonna help the trees thrive, if nothing else, right? And that's, to me, that's my goal, right? And if we can generate some income off it for whatever, for trail construction, for recreation, right? So we don't have to figure out where to get the money for it. Or the erosion problems, to fix those, so that we don't have to, put it in the general budget.
But it also helps regenerate the forest.
Well, exactly,
Yeah,
that's.
Forest, it's a holistic plan.
Right.
You can't manage the forest without harvesting trees, because it just doesn't work. All of a sudden, you just end up with just all trees, and then you have nothing that lives underneath it.
Well, I think that from what I read is there's the one section that has a lot of beach problem, which I think it's down in the bottom, right?
Yeah, stand one is,
There's a lot of,
it's a lot of beach problem and sorry, you can finish.
no, go ahead.
Well, but at the same time, it's an area that despite that is, well, one part of it is it's so much beach that I kind of want to leave it and see how it plays out in terms of.
As an
So
experiment.
maybe that was the one, but there was one that I don't.
Stand four is where I'm interested in regenerating oak.
Okay, that's the one, okay.
Right.
So I could look, because I highlighted them, and so right now we have such a problem, with, say, the beach. Go in and cut that out and get it out of there, because now, even if we generate firewood price for it, or whatever we did, if it falls down on the ground, you don't get anything on it, except for walk over it when you go in and recreate, right? Or, I mean, it will. Well, yeah, but it'll regenerate. And I understand what you're saying, but at least now, that with that sustainable management plan,
Yeah, it's.
right, you go in and you take that out, like the ash, take those out, because they're just gonna die.
We had a slide early on, I think, that said, if I'm recalling right, keep it messy or something.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. Going back to that idea of how our forests have developed we're developing for thousands of years, there is a lot of mess. A lot of the way that we got new trees were often by ice storms, windstorms, things that knocked down pockets of forest. And those trees stayed on the ground. Things are falling over, dying naturally already. And so it was a mix of areas of big trees, areas where things got knocked over, and small trees in different arrangements, growing at different densities, and just one through line of old, like truly old growth forests around the world is a lot of big dead wood on the ground. So a lot of those features are things that we humans tend to think of as a mess. People really aesthetically like a clean understory, but in terms of especially in the Northeast, our forest development, our animals, they really love a messy forest. And by that, I don't mean rutted up roads and logging and like that kind of mess, but I do mean big trees on the ground, fine tops on the ground, trees of all sizes, shrubs. It just kind of a little bit of chaos on the ground is how our forest wants to develop. So
Just want to be careful that we don't put a lot of fuel, because then we end up with forest fire.
yeah, and that is something to think about. I mean, we generally don't have a fire prone forest in the Northeast. People
You guys watch too much television.
It's like, the climate is, there's some things that are changing, but We actually, in a lot of our forests, having wood on the ground, it holds moisture and helps moisture retention just in this part of the world.
This is
completely
Montana and Wyoming,
I
but okay,
know.
this is Northwest.
So
This is not Colorado.
I would, if, right around
Go out there
the.
asking the question, she's answering.
We want to pile up a bunch.
Forest
of
fires here burn ground clutter.
Yes, they do.
They don't
Does
burn.
that answer your question about what I meant by this? Yeah. Yeah, so, and what that means on the ground is like when, in these harvests, I like to prescribe cut, like some really big beech, cut them and leave them on the ground, create more of that.
Which is where I thought you were gonna head with that.
Yeah, so, which also can be mushroom logs.
Right,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah. I don't want to take up, is there more questions about this? My plan is I have more work. I want to get that plan into better shape, incorporate this conversation into it, send out a second draft to you all.
Okay.
Shorter would be.
And I would. I would love to try to condense it, we'll add some things, but,
What's your, like, sort of realistically speaking, what would your timeline look like on that?
to getting a second draft out to you,
And if,
I mean, January,
okay,
yeah.
cool, great.
And I would also, like, it would be fun to have another public, meeting with more public here, and to get
Definitely.
their input, but I'm
Yeah.
envisioning putting out a second draft, and then after that, hopefully coming up with a final version.
Okay.
So,
I would encourage board members to read the plan that she's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
I paid good money and your plan is just as good or not better.
it's, you know, the plan that she put here in front of us tonight is pretty extensive.
Mhm.
So I would encourage you guys to read it. Cover to cover, 50 something pages
the
long.
second draft, it's-
Well, yeah, no, right, no, that's fine, but no.
I
would say
should
that.
I've definitely read the Concom's cover to cover.
Yeah.
Great job, by the way, with
For
your
sure.
it.
There's
And yours.
17 pages.
And no, but I also got yours today, so.
I know, I sent it out really late.
I had time this morning.
I didn't,
so was
I didn't
lucky.
expect anyone to cover at this point.
I had time this morning, so it's like, I was bored in my office, so I had time.
It's been scanned by my eyes, but it will be read cover to cover.
I don't
I'm really,
take your time.
but I do have like so as you're preparing your second draft.
Yeah.
And like your goals and objectives too, like really spurn some thoughts and things I'm interested in. Like, are you open to us communicating with you via email or something while you're working on that? To be
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you tell us a little more?
I don't know if you all, I was copied on the email.
It's
Yeah,
copied
I've
on
got
email. We all got.
Got your
email, yeah.
contact. Yeah,
Yeah, no.
They're forwarded to-
Give me more feedback.
Okay.
I would love.
great.
And ask more questions.
If you, in your explorations, found any particular spots that you thought were particularly beautiful or had like, just anything that we might want to sort of identify and work towards getting people to.
Stand 9
Mhm.
took my breath away. That was, it's one of those.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, with the left, that was what, and then, yeah, along just, that river corridor there is really gorgeous. And then, of course, the center ridge line is also.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, those are, and I mean, and that, sorry, yeah, these are just the highlights for me. You can kind of see this pocket up here, it's really hard to get
Oh,
to.
wow.
We were like on hands and knees, but that little pocket of hemlock right there is, I think it's some of the most gorgeous little pocket. There's some really big hemlock, there's some really big ones on the ground, which I love, which are all mossy and covered in baby trees. It's a really pretty site. And then in the north section, the stand of pine is really lovely, but I want to open it up.
So that one you were talking about the hemlocks, would that be 6?
Yeah, stand 6.
Yeah.
And there's like three pockets of it. The one furthest to the west is really special. Really hard to get to. Yeah.
Did you go up to the Taconic Crest and then come down, or you went straight up?
We crawled. Yeah. We couldn't get the ATV. The ATV actually couldn't make it to the Taconic.
I'm shocked you even got close to
We
it.
got close, but we didn't get all, so we had to go
Yeah.
backtrack and then like try a different route, and then we hopped off and we were just, yeah. But it was pouring that day too. Yeah. All right, that feels good for now? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thank you so much.
Very much.
All right.
So you want
Thanks,
a
Cecil.
presentation?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll have to pass it to Hannah and intro just where the presentation is.
You do?
So I just want to give credit where credit is due on this. The integrated management plan was largely the work of Janet here, and I helped her, but she really was the one who kind of pulled all this stuff together and turned it into a real draft.
You're a good team, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I read it. I mean, it is such an easy, it's very well written. It's very easy to read.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh my, it's long, but it wasn't. But it's an easy.
No, that's not long.
It's not.
The appendices are really long.
Yeah. Really.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And again, I think this is a very well written, there's a lot of time been spent here, a lot of research. I think it's incredibly efficient. I think you had covered, I didn't see a whole lot that you missed.
Yeah, you know, this is coming out of, I mean, looking at a bunch of other forest management plans and talking to a bunch of other people who were sort of managing those forests, basically. So yeah, really very little of this came out of us directly, and or sort of we were conduits to kind of pull it all together.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
I would say too, like an ancillary benefit of participating in projects like these are the great people we get to meet and partner with. So like Green Mountain Club and Tessa, the Horwa, there's a list, we had kind of hiking, there's just a list of folks and they're all wonderful and they all, want to see us succeed with this forest. So it's such a great thing. So,
All right.
So I am excited.
There it goes.
To talk a little bit about the management plan that you've had a chance to look at, but just, quickly, the background on it, back in 2002, after the tannery went defunct, the town was able to acquire the original 700 acres of land with the help of the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board and the Vermont Land Trust, with a grant for that. So that was the original lands. It kind of stood at a standstill for about 20 years because the access remained elusive. I don't know all of the details behind it, but I know Brian has talked about Woods Road being washed out into the Hoosick River. And so for a number of reasons, we really public didn't have access to that forest. Back in 2020, the Parks and Rec Committee was formed, and the primary job of the committee was to find a way to recreate on this Pownell Town Forest, which was at that time the Allen Strobridge Recreational Complex, but it was to find a way to recreate there and get permanent public access. As a result of that, and working with really good folks at the Vermont Land Trust, I think Don Campbell may have joined the meeting. We had success with applying for and getting approval for the VOREC grant. And with Don's help, there was also the purchase of the 2023 edition, which was the Boyce property, which is another 300 acres. In 2024, the town was able to acquire, the permanent public access, and 25 and going into next year, we're working on finalizing the parking area, the road, Nicholas Way, which will be taken over by the town.
They put batteries in those things.
And then hopefully some more trail improvements.
Ready for the next one?
Sure.
All right.
Ta-da. So why an integrated management plan? Well, the first reason is because we have to. And I can say Don is making us, but
Well, he is.
it is in both the original conservation easement back in 2002 and in the 2023 conservation easement for the second property, a management plan is required. And so we had the original Woodlands plan back in 2004 that was created by a contractor consultant. And then in 2023, we have an interim plan that Tara largely worked on that gave us time to work on and prepare this plan. So we talked a lot about why an integrated plan makes sense in the last conversation, is we want to ensure the health of the forest and its critical ecosystems. We want to encourage recreation and education use, and we want to make sure that we're doing that considering all the needs of the forest. So from a Parks and Rec perspective, we may want a trail to go this way or that way, but Concom may point out to us, there's a old logging road that already exists, and we should probably try to make use of that. And we talked about the timber and all of those things. So it makes sense to have everything together holistically in one document, in one place. And again, we talked about planning for the forest needs. So the basis for our plan was largely, we had public engagement. The Williams College Environmental Studies class had an entire semester devoted to public outreach. And so we've incorporated a lot of their research and their findings in this plan. There were visioning workshops, a public survey. There were several focus groups, tabling events, like a trunk or treat, election day here in 2024, celebrate Pownell Day, really tried to engage at events where we thought there would be a lot of participation. There were group hikes, some hosted by Concom, some hosted by Parks and Rec. We had people from Green Mountain Club with us up on the mountain, Horwa, all these great folks. And then in August, we had community conversations at the library. So we've incorporated all the feedback from this public engagement. I already mentioned that there was a 2004 Woodlands Management Plan that did talk a lot about recreation, and also the interim plan that Tara did a great job in preparing. So we were able to pull a lot of that information. And then another fun fact is that 2/3 of the towns in Vermont have a town forest. I didn't realize that. 168 of the 252 towns have a town forest, and a lot of them have a management plan. So we were able to, as I mentioned, lean on these. There aren't a lot of scenarios that I could ever envision that weren't already covered in those management plans.
Although a lot of people, their jaws dropped when I told them how big our town forest is. It's probably one of the biggest.
I think so.
Yeah. And then one of the items that we're proposing for management is a steering committee. And of course, as a municipally owned forest, the select board is ultimately responsible for the management and stewardship of the forest, but we would propose this steering committee structure to help oversee the forest on behalf of the select board, and we would provide regular updates to the select board. But, it was outlined extensively in the document, but just a few bullet points are to oversee management and advance the goals of the overall plan, propose updates to the plan. It's proposed to be a 5-year plan. I know that the conservation easements have dates for regular updates. I think they're 5 or 10-year intervals. The steering committee would provide status updates to key stakeholders, work as a liaison with county foresters and other local and state officials. And then what we would suggest is a 7-member board appointed by the select board with a member from Concom, a member from Parks and Rec, and a member of the select board or town staff at a minimum. But, the other 4 members could have other forest-minded backgrounds or be interested in outdoor recreation. So that's our.
So my question to you is, do you want questions as you're going along, or do you want to wait till the end? Same as I did with Tessa. Because I just have, I went through and made some highlights. You just,
Okay.
what do you want, Jen?
I'm all done my section. So I don't know if you want to ask questions to this point, and then Nate is
I have a question on
That would be
the,
the easiest.
I have a question on the steering committee.
Sure.
That's all, just some thoughts and questions. So. And I like the idea, okay, first. So the select board member. Could theoretically change every year. Right,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
that's, and the number of. Select board members that could be on this steering committee I think would be limited to two. I don't think you could have three, because then it could be technically
Now you're running
considered.
the open meeting stuff.
You would run into, you know, just, these are just food for thought things for
Yeah.
you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like I said, I had a little more time to go through yours, so yours is even more cover to cover than
Yeah,
X's, but,
I think what I was gonna put forward here is, it should be a diverse membership.
Okay.
From different,
Mhm.
from different groups, Concom, Parks and Rec. I think town staff or a select board
Mhm.
member would be important, and, any other stakeholders that you think.
I think, one of the, because we had the meeting with them, I think the fishing game should be,
Yeah, I think so.
I think a member of the fishing game club should be included on that steering committee. It's a note that I have.
Just to clarify, you're thinking an advisory committee, so the board would still hold that ultimate
Yes,
decision making, but
Right.
it's an advisory committee.
yeah, more efficient way to manage forests, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the fishing game should definitely have
Yeah, that's
a stake in that steering committee. Good thing. Okay, sorry,
That's good.
yeah,
That's great.
I got my highlights.
So I'm just gonna run real quick through sort of what I feel are kind of the most important points, the rules and guidelines. Some of these things obviously can change. Really, the only stuff that's pretty well baked in is the way that the ATVs rules. So we'll get it. I'll start with the easier stuff. So permitted uses are basically sort of any kind of non-motorized recreation you want to do, snowshoeing, bird watching, hiking, jogging, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, picnicking, whatever. So that's all you can do it, at this point, at least kind of anybody wants out there. The next is sort of permitted uses with restrictions. So we are, and a lot of what we're hoping to do is kind of give them a trial basis and then kind of come back in a year and look at how it's working, what the problems are, and sort of reevaluate if we need to. So we want to try out leave no trace camping for folks if they want to go out there and just camp on their own. And they just kind of have to follow the same, stay, it's what is it, 200 feet away from rivers. There's like a few sort of basic guidelines, and just packing all your trash out, obviously. We've got dog walking. We're going to do that on leash only for sort of our first trial basis and see how that goes. We are also going to do a trial on e-biking, because that was something that a lot of people mentioned to us when we were doing the public outreach. But we're restricting it just to the class 1 e-bikes, which basically they're limited to 20 miles an hour and under, and they don't have, they'll only give you assistance when you're pedaling. You can't just use a throttle. So they're typically less powerful. You likely wouldn't be able to make it up the hills on the e-bikes anyway. But yeah, so try it out, see whether there are any issues with it or not, and kind of go from there. So then the next one is permitted uses requiring permission from the town. So this was kind of a carve out for just any kind of special events that people might want to run up there. At one point we talked with the folks at Dion Snowshoes about doing like some kind of snowshoeing race or something like that. So that would fall into this category of, come to the select board, kind of present what the project is going to be and get your permission to do it first. So then the last one is permitted uses requiring a license or registration. So this is mostly sort of governing the hunting. So hunting is permitted in the town forest in compliance with the laws of Fish and Wildlife Department. You need to have a hunting license the same way you would everywhere else. We've got it limited to deer and turkey hunting seasons. So that's late April, May, and then October through mid-December. And it seems like most of what people are hunting up there is deer. is my impression.
Can I ask why it was limited?
I
know people that squirrel hunt up there
Oh,
too.
really?
My son does.
I'm actually not sure. where
Yeah, and
that
fair.
came from, but that's one of the things that is potentially up for discussion.
That was one of my highlighted points, because what I don't disagree with what you're saying, except for, it is 1,000 acres of town forest.
Mhm.
So not every person in the town of Pownell has access to take their son or daughter and teach them how to small game,
Mhm.
right? And I can tell you that every one of us that sits here in this room, that started hunting, didn't start hunting deer or turkey.
Mhm.
We started hunting small game.
Okay,
Right.
great.
So I just think that needs to be
Yeah. Yeah.
adjusted, you know,
Well, for sure. And like where this came from was likely looking at,
I get it.
just looking at the other plans and seeing what they had in them.
Right.
But yeah, that's absolutely why we want to bring this stuff to you.
Right,
and See if
right.
there are places we want to sort of add things in. So
Right.
we can definitely take a look at that and
Mhm.
sort of open that up more widely.
Right, right. Yeah, I obviously have to have the license and you have to
Right.
have whatever,
Right.
and, you know, the other requirements are fine. I just think we need to open it up to.
So we're also on a trial basis. We are going to try and close down the town forest to anybody who isn't hunting for just the 2-week deer rifle hunting season when there's a lot of hunters up there. Then let's see, the only other thing on here is the fish and game camp. So this is where we start to kind of get into stuff that's a little bit more kind of baked into the the contracts and everything. So there, folks from the fishing game camp are allowed to maintain, repair, and replace the cabin as they need to. And the public is allowed to use the fishing game camp regularly, and the camp should be available for use at public use at all times, except for 2 weeks each bow season and rifle season of deer hunting. I'm not sure exactly where that came either. That might have come from the Fish and Game Club.
Came from the fishing game.
It's in the,
It came.
it's in the east.
Oh, okay, so that's fully baked into, okay. So fishing is allowed. Although currently we don't have great access to the Hoosic River, so there's, I mean, you can.
Yeah, maybe you would want to eat some fish out of there. I don't know.
Yeah, so that's something we'll be working towards. Oh, yeah, and so campfires, we had a discussion with Craig about campfires. We eventually might want to look at developing a couple of fire rings or barbecues. He wanted to make sure we don't have any fires above the elevation of the fishing game camp because there's not a lot of water up there. So he gave us some good basic guidelines, and for the time being, it's no campfires until we have fire rings, basically. Okay, so prohibited activities. We've got trapping. And that came from looking at a bunch of different forest management plans, and basically sort of the consensus was that creates a snap for visitors and pets before traveling there. So that's one place where we wanted to kind of draw a little bit of a harder line. Private timber harvesting, obviously, private sugaring.
I got a question on that.
Yeah.
I would like that one moved up to by permission of the town only with a plan from the county forest. I mean, they allow sugaring, and nobody's gonna be sugaring there except for anybody that the town gives permission for. And the other part of that is I have a real problem with the fact of where I lost it. I gotta find it. Prohibited hunting, no. But anyways, sugaring and forestry and recreation can all coexist together. Okay, I would prefer that it would be moved to that section. The section where you would have special events. Okay,
Explicit approval from the town.
correct.
Okay, sure. Well, so for sugaring and like private timber harvest.
No, I don't care. There's no such thing as private timber harvesting, because if you have to harvest according to her plan.
Okay, all right, so just maple
Sugaring.
if someone wanted to.
Right.
Without, okay, cool, gotcha, okay.
So I had sugaring highlighted as well. And the reason that I highlighted it, to be perfectly honest with you guys, is if some organization, Williams College, wanted to bring a group of their students in to tap 100 trees
Mhm.
and to teach maple sugar or the school or some
Yeah.
organization, that was my
Mhm.
intention, not somebody as a for-profit
Right.
to make maple syrup to sell.
Mhm.
But I was thinking on an educational, because that was one of the things when we worked so hard on this was an educational piece with Vorak and VHCB.
Right.
Mhm.
Where, and I think, you know, we definitely eliminate commercial sugaring in there for sure, right?
I think that's eliminated by the conservation.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But I think if we could put an educational clause in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's fine. So we'll say basically,
But that takes care,
ask permission to select board.
the select, yeah,
For non-commercial purposes.
Or for I would think educational would be,
Class at school.
you know, would be something in there, you know, the high school wants to
Yeah.
come in and do, I don't know, I'm just,
Yeah,
I thought that,
I just think the educational portion of it to me
great,
would be.
awesome. Okay, so other prohibited activities, no new trails developed without prior permission of the steering committee. No target practice of random shooting to minimize danger to other users of the forest. This is another thing that's baked in is dirt bikes and motorcycles are not allowed anywhere in the town forest, and that's sort of separate from ATV use, which I'm gonna get into on the next slide right now.
how do you do that? And allow an electric bike?
Well,
That's
so-
where I've got, a mountain bike is one
that's
thing,
why we bring it to that.
but an electric bike,
Yeah, I agree with you. It is a little weird, and we're working on trying to find those lines.
the people,
Mechanized.
Yeah.
like,
yes,
Well, and yeah, really, like, that's why we want to stop it at class 1 bikes is because the class 2 plus bikes are more like dirt
Yeah.
bikes. And
that's,
for the same reason, you know, if you're going uphill and you're spinning the tires, that's like primary cause of
erosion, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so motorized vehicle use. So this is all the stuff that's pretty well baked in here that we really don't have a lot of things to change, but
Right.
I actually printed out what's in there because I want to make sure I read it out verbatim here.
Before,
Okay, cool. Well, if you want to.
I got one question.
Yeah.
Was there any mention of horseback riding? I don't have horses, but I don't think I saw that in there.
It was in the Williams College environmental study, but it was much lower down on the desired recreation list, so we kind of picked the top 10.
I understand that. I just,
And there was concern about the defecation of the horses and the impact of that on the forest. That's what I read from other plans, but I don't have really an opinion on it. It just wasn't in all of the surveys and the visioning workshop, and that it
better
wasn't.
than dumping gas.
William, you know, reach out to the local, like some of the local riding clubs or something and talking.
Correct.
See if we could figure out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
And that would all depend on the trails, because that would be trail specific. Is there, I imagine there are some trails that you say, no, like, we can't have horses on that.
Well, I'm gonna ask Tessa a question on this one, if you don't mind. What is, so I know that in like Wyoming, when I was out there, it has to be certified, a horse has to be certified, fed certified hay, so that it doesn't bring in an invasive species.
Oh,
Okay, so,
I really don't, that's
I
actually,
mean, I just.
wow, I
I've experienced that, so,
yeah.
so that,
that makes sense. I don't know a lot. I haven't, this is actually the first time I've heard it come up as in.
I just knew that would be a question that I would get.
The only time I really think about horses in the woods specific concretely is with horse logging, which isn't common, but it's
Yeah.
something that happens. So I mean, people do bring horses into the woods, but usually that happens in the winter time. So I don't know if that.
I guess you.
yeah, I,
volume or recovery.
I don't have any out there.
I know at one point, and I don't even know if it's still in play. I know at one point, my brothers were selling hay to a customer who rode her horses through national forest up in Woodford and wherever. And it was basically they took the horses out of there,
Right.
off limits because of invasive species.
Yeah,
And I don't wanna,
that makes sense.
I don't want, and I'm not,
We don't.
say-
want another vector, yeah.
right, so it's just,
That's
a-
something to look into.
yeah, it's just a thought. I don't wanna get into, a situation where we say, okay, yes, but we can't do it because of an invasive species and whatever. I'm not totally sold that it's the only way the invasive species gets there, right? But
Exactly.
yeah,
I guess leave it up to.
Yeah, I'll definitely look into that. That's because, yeah, people will ask about that for sure. Okay, so, the exceptions for so basically the general rule is no motorized vehicles allowed, for, especially for Reservoir Valley. That's a particularly sensitive sort of protected area where we're really trying to dissuade people from riding. We also know that that's one of the places where a lot of people are riding now. So, one of the things I would urge the select board to kind of think about in conjunction with this, because obviously, this is a place where people have ridden for a really long time. Many of the trails exist because people are riding up there. And although it wasn't technically allowed for the last however many years, we haven't really set any expectations or enforced anything. So for a lot of these people, it was really shocking to them to hear that they weren't going to be allowed to ride here. And what I told them is, unfortunately, like at this point, it's kind of already baked into the plan. There's not really anything we can do, but this is maybe an opportunity for us to kind of look at working with that community of riders and trying to come up with a long-term solution for a legal place that they could ride in town. Because right now it's scattered all over the place. They're on the Appalachian Trail and they don't want to ride illegally. I've talked with a lot of them. So just something to kind of put in the backs of your minds that I think there are a lot of riders out there that want to have a legal place to ride in Powell and they don't currently have it. And this is another place where they were riding that they now cannot ride. So just something to kind of consider. Okay, so here are the exceptions to that no motorized vehicle rule. So ATV riding is allowed to access the Fish and Game Club cabin via a designated route, beginning in the new access point of the town forest at the end of Nicholas Way, following the main arterial road that runs along the stream up to the camp. So that's the way that everybody is currently accessing. I mean, well, people are accessing it from a variety of different private properties now, but they're all sort of converging onto this main arterial road and then going up to the Fish and Game camp. So it's our hope that once we have our access point sort of opened up, we will be able to get people to bring their ATVs over there and then ride through our public land legally on this very specific route. Hunters leave their ATVs there. If they want to hunt further up on the mountain, they walk from there. That's the way that the laws are currently set up on this. The other carve out is that it's going to be allowed to access a scenic overlook for the enjoyment of disabled persons on a designated route. So that's we haven't figured out exactly where the best spot to do that is yet. It will likely be somewhere close to that sort of main arterial road and with the limitations of the views, it'll likely be kind of a view down into the valley of the river, and which is very beautiful, but it's achieving views out like of the mountains. You have to get really high up on the mountain, which is probably unrealistic, at least at this point. So ATVs are not allowed during winter months, December 1st through April 15th. A person shall not operate an ATV unless it's registered by the state of Vermont. And they shall not operate an ATV unless they belong to the Vermont ATV Sportsmen's Association, VASA. So these are all things that are baked in that we have no control over. So obviously we don't have any way to enforce this other than putting up signs and just telling people. So that's what we're going to try and do. And we're just going to hope to kind of slowly over time reduce that traffic. And we think that providing another legal place for them to ride will help with that a lot. So
I have one thing, and this was a huge. When I was working on this project to purchase the 300 whatever acres, the Boyce property. One of the things that I stood really super solid on and super strong was having ADA access, not to just a scenic overlook, but to somebody who wanted to hunt up on that property. I think it's incredibly important. And I really, I've thought about how do we handle it as a town extensively, and I don't have the answers. But I have some ideas, right? But I think that we really need to, and maybe we do just do it for deer season, bow season and deer season. And there again, I think that having disability ADA access for someone on a side by side or a four wheeler to go up there and hunt. And I'm not saying to go up there and ride on an everyday basis or do
Right.
whatever, but to have access to be able to go up and hunt on the property to access some of the places that they otherwise wouldn't be able to. That's incredibly important to me. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know the answers. I have some ideas, it's a permit, right? I'm disabled, I come to the town, I get a permit. And I have access through the gate somehow. And then, well, okay, you're my buddy, so I'm gonna give you the code to get in the gate. I lose my access, right? I think there's a lot of regulations that need to go with it. But I also think that it's a really important piece, at least to me it is, that people, and I'm not saying they have access to it every day of the week to go ride all, whatever, except for the winter months and I like that. That's sort of a normal thing. I just think that especially during deer season, rifle season, or, maybe we can have a 2-week period during bow season. Bow season runs forever. Or maybe we have, something along those lines where they have to apply.
Maybe we can talk to Vermont Land Trust about that.
Donald and I have had this discussion.
As an easement holder, because that is not consistent with the easement, so I think
Right.
maybe they've had some other.
Right.
But I understand where you're
Properties
coming from, and that's like sort of a carve out that probably isn't super typical. So certainly we can bring that to Donald and see what they say.
Right, we have that discussion
right
in
here.
the initial process, because it's like, I'm gonna jump on board, I'm fine with that, but this is kind of a big thing for me.
This is also, it's like very much an accessibility issue.
Exactly,
Otherwise, someone could hunt it. But yeah,
it's just for that
I totally.
person or, a couple, maybe my uncle's now 95 years old, wants to go deer hunting and can't access the property.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's
Can't walk the same.
And I had this discussion with a former board member 20 years ago or more about national forest. It had nothing to do with anything in the town. It was actually in 2003, so 22 years ago, I had this discussion with a board member in Pownell. We were just talking about different things. And it was about 700 acres and having access, So this is something that's been on my plate for a long time.
Okay, so real quick, the last bit of this is snowmobiling. And so this is also just kind of taken from best practices of other places. So it's very similar. You can snowmobile in the winter, assuming there's snow on the ground. You have to be registered with the state on a limited basis on trails designated for motorized use. So we can think about sort of where it makes sense for people to be able to ride, but it'll likely kind of be that main arterial. That's really the only place anyone can get access to anyway. No snowmobiling in Reservoir Hollow, because of the ecological protection zone there. Register and they have to be members of VAST, which is the snowmobile version of VASA. Okay, cool. All right, that's kind of the nuts and bolts stuff. Okay, so these are kind of our sort of big picture goals. This is kind of the Concom side. So we are looking at working on sort of trail connectivity and access. So that'll include finishing the existing trail network that we've been working on. And our sort of next focus after that is the Taconic Crest Trail sort of connector that goes up through that dry oak forest along that central ridge, which is it's a gorgeous hike. And there's already a road that goes all the way up there. We're just going to connect to that road. And that gives us access to the Taconic Crest, and theoretically hikers could then hike down into the Bar Valley from there too, without having to hike all the way up and around.
It'd be the only access in Vermont. from Taconic.
Yeah,
Trail.
yep. A kiosk and content, so we're, that's tied in with the parking lot, but, Tom Zolper on Concom is sort of looking for, thinking about sources of funding, although we probably have funding in the grant still for that, and just content, what kind of stuff we want to have up there, stuff about hunting season, ticks, et cetera. We're going to do kind of the interpretive information. Obviously protecting sensitive areas, I think Tessa talked about that too, just now that we kind of have a good idea of where these sensitive areas, just being really conscious of that when we're working on developing trails. And then another thing we want to think about is sort of like educational and interpretive signage. There are a couple of great examples around here of like sort of nature walks that have little plaques that tell you about the flora and fauna. So it's sort of geared towards kids, people who are sort of naturalists, learn about the animals and the wildlife. So I think that's kind of, Concom wants to focus on kind of education about that, and also the sort of historic significance of this property. There's lots of interesting stories to tell about the tannery, about the tannery dam, and sort of the ecological damage. There's a lot of cool angles there. So we want to kind of sort of expand what's available in the town forest by adding sort of education as an element there. So then on the recreation side, oops, there we go. So again, trailer connectivity, that's all, the lines are really blurred, and Conservation Commission, Parks and Recreation have been working really closely together all this stuff, which has been really great. We're also looking at sort of one of these like gathering locations, like I think currently the best idea we've had is this kind of local logging landing. It's that you hit, probably half a mile in on the trail. It's sort of the first place where the trail opens out. It's a flat area. It's overlooking the stream. It's relatively easy to get to. There aren't too many steep hills, so that's a great place to have like a little sort of picnic zone. We're looking at sort of educational programming, as in like walks with naturalists. Green Mountain Club has expressed interest in doing a hike up here. Bird watching hikes, and then even like maybe some trail building and maintenance seminars that Green Mountain Club could help us facilitate, so we could sort of build a core of volunteers to help maintain the trail. And then also working on figuring out ways to get groups of school kids up there. We want to do annual user group meetings, so we want to try and get folks who are using the forest regularly to come and sit down with us here and just give us ideas about what's working, what isn't, what they'd like to see. We're going to work, Parks and Recreation is to work on the like sort of physical maps and digital maps and sort of promotion of that material. So it's having a paper map we can hand out, but it's also having an interactive map up on the town website that we'll work on with BCRC. And also getting all these trails on all trails and Google Maps so that people from outside of town can sort of find them or looking for them. And then the last thing is administrative actions. So that's really kind of working to advocate for some attention to the forest in our town plan, and working with the state to get wayfinding signage on the roads to sort of point people to the park. Looking for new sources of funding, just kind of, sort of thinking towards the future about like how we're going to kind of keep this project going. Okay. So now we're on to kind of trail development. If you guys want to, I got this big printout that we brought to celebrate panel day. You're welcome to take a look at it. So we're going down in a couple of categories here. So first is sort of our guiding principles. So what we're really trying to focus on is building trails for people of all skill levels, because there are a lot of folks here that are not looking to hike up to the Taconic Crest Trail, and as incredible forest. So really, even the trails that are easy are somewhat steep in places. So we want to focus on trying to make it as accessible as possible to most people possible. We also want to reuse as much of the trail system as possible, so we're not cutting new trails. So we try and be really, really careful about these little connector trails and just sort of jumping from one existing logging road to another. And there are lots of overgrown logging roads where we can kind of cut a single track in where there used to be a road that's now sort of grown in. So we have tons of opportunities to develop trails out here. Taconic Crest Connector Trail is a big priority, and then this ADA accessible view is also we want to focus on. So we don't need to get too deep into this stuff, but what we've been working on primarily recently is sort of the documentation of all this stuff, right? Getting information about where the trees are. I've been walking out on the trails and sort of grading the condition of the trails so that we have an idea of kind of where it would be easier or harder to sort of develop new trails. So that's what all the color coding on there is for. We're starting to work our way towards a paper map and this sort of interactive map that's going to be on the website as well. The other thing that was brought to my attention is that once we sort of have a trail map set, we want to make sure that we've got it all in the emergency trails database because that information is probably patchy at best right now. So our local emergency response folks have basically the map you're looking at there, but it's not super helpful. It's only helpful in a very limited way to them. So we want to make sure that they've got all the info they need.
Some of those are GPS location.
Yeah. And so that's really what we're working on is exactly that. It's sort of transferring all that into a map where you can like look at it on your phone while you're driving around up there or doing whatever you need to do. So 2026 goals. Ideally, we are going to work with either the Vermont Youth Conservation Corps again or Greenagers is another group we've been talking to try and just continue the work that we started this summer, continue sort of refining those trails because we got a really good loop roughed in, but it still needs some work before it's going to be really usable for everybody. We have the skeleton of a design for a connector trail that's going to take us up to this dry oak forest. We do not yet have the money to build that trail, but we have our eyes on a couple of grants that we may be able to sort of leverage for that after this current grant is sort of finished. Wayfinding signage because there's currently none up there, and we definitely need that. I've put up ribbons and some cheap arrow signs, but we want to do something a little more sort of permanent, a little more attractive to kind of unify it all. We have money in the grant for a couple of emergency gates. We're going to do one kind of at the entrance, and that's going to be Fish and Game Club members will get the access code so they can get past with their ATVs. And then we're going to have one gate higher up on the mountain, which will be just for emergency services if they need to rescue somebody up there. And then forming the steering committee that Jen talked about. And then looking towards the future, we've got our eyes on this Agency of Natural Resources Recreational Trails grant as sort of a good source for our sort of next chunk of money to work on trails. We are going to try and come up with a good kind of trail maintenance plan and work on building a core of volunteers that's interested in going up there and doing a little trail maintenance. We've had some conversations with a few of the folks who were involved in the Bats trails in Bennington. They're really excited about trying to find some places to mountain bike up there. So there are no specific plans, but we've been walking the trails with them and talking about how we might be able to incorporate some mountain biking trails in. And then looking at just any other facilities we might develop up there. We talked about a walking archery course at one point, campsites, pit toilets. I mean, who knows? And then picnic tables, barbecues, things like that for sort of a gathering spot. So just sort of as we look into the future, we may not be able to achieve all that stuff within the scope of this grant, but there's more opportunities for planning. So then this is just the same map you guys have there. So obviously, like most of the hiking that I've done has been in Camp Valley because that's a lot easier to access than Reservoir Valley is. And it is gorgeous. There's so much potential for recreation up here. There's so many beautiful spots. I mean, I really do believe that this could be an anchor for our community and bring new people into town looking for this kind of really awesome, like beautiful, hard hiking and mountain biking. And camping too. There's lots of people hiking on the Taconic Crest Trail, limited places to camp up there. We may get people coming down into town from there. So yeah, it's hard to envision now, but if I really try and kind of close my eyes and look into the future, that's where I really see there being kind of money in leaning into recreation here. I think that in the long run, this could really do a lot for us to kind of put us on the map. So that's the end of what I got. And
One question.
yeah.
Actually, probably, Terry. If we do some logging,
Mhm.
we'll build a logging trail. My concern is the closer you get the truck to where you're logging, the less damage you're gonna do. As in making skidder trails and all that, because
Mhm.
you either gotta get the truck up to the wood or drag the wood down off the mountain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It would be nice to integrate that into what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
Into that
Okay.
landing area,
What's that? Especially in the landing area, yeah.
that landing is, yeah, I mean, if it would, yeah, just a conversation to have, I guess.
You two should get together and
I
have
mean,
that.
that's what we,
Yeah.
Someone needs to be on the steering committee.
Yeah. So
yeah, definitely, we need to talk about that.
We need to talk about that.
and there are a lot of existing navigable roads that will get you relatively far up there.
I have the town of Bennington.
Mhm.
When they finally logged their Pownell lot. They built a road so they could drive their truck up. Granted, it's shorter than what, I'm sorry. Than what is gonna go on here.
Mhm.
But the philosophy was, if you can drive a logging truck up
Mhm.
and then load your logs, you skid them to one special point or so, and then take them off the mountain. You're not tearing it up. Then when you're done, you seat the road over, and the road is now just seeded down with a non-invasive grass.
Well, yeah, we'll work with Tesla to try and kind of figure out how we
Maybe
can
we
make
get a
that.
truck up to that first landing.
I know, it's,
That
I
would
mean,
be
that's,
just being
I mean, I've driven my minivan up to that land. It's definitely possible. I had to go through the like Sean's gravel pit up there, but it is possible.
Yeah.
But even from there, you still have to get like across the stream and kind of up into the hills there.
Yeah,
You still-
they're like, yeah, but if it, I think that's what we could do, but if, I think we're not gonna have a logging truck in there more than every 15 years.
Yeah.
So if that would be a recreational spot.
oh, it would be a record, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. Great, yeah, we'll look into that.
I just was, because if it's not said, then it gets forgotten, that's all.
Yeah, definitely one. And now that we sort of know where those stands are, we can
Right.
kind of plan.
Yeah,
Now I will also start planning around those in terms of where we develop trails. So
Right.
we're not cutting through that land more than we need to.
okay,
Yeah, because obviously there's plenty of room up here to be able to do all this stuff.
do everything.
Cool. Okay, that's all I got.
Donald, I think, is on Zoom.
Yeah,
I don't know
thought you
if
had
he
a comment
wants
there.
to, he commented that we can lease sugaring is allowed, so I was wrong on that.
Cool.
But I don't know if he wants to share any thoughts or.
And so I said, as long as it was referenced in the plan, so I just
Right.
real quick will check that I think there's a sugar maple stand in the school valley, is that what Camp Valley?
Camp Valley,
Valley side, that I think I can include in the plan there, a possibility to tap for it, educational or whatever purposes you will say.
Well, that's just what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for a commercial operation or anything like that, Tessa. I was looking for the ability for some, whether it's a high school or a tech center
Yeah.
or, anything along those lines to make sure that we didn't exclude that at this, when we're doing this, so that 10 years from now, somebody doesn't have to revisit it and start over, right? And we that portion of it with a sugar thing. I honestly didn't realize there was sugar maples in there.
Yeah.
So until I read your part, I did not realize that. So it's just one of the things that I wanted to make sure we covered.
On there? No.
Yes.
No comments needed. Just one thing to point out, it's kind of also this little white section here, these sort of two.
On the bottom.
So this is where we've been really focusing our energy on building sort of a walking path that is as accessible as possible to people, because once you can get to the beginning of that trail, you've already hiked almost half a mile. So even these really, even the shortest, you're doing probably close to 2 miles to get in and out. So we really wanted to get it as close in as possible. So we have 2 really great interconnecting loops. They make use of a really well-developed section of logging road. Well, both of these, you can walk up here. This is really well developed. This is a well-developed logging road. And this road here is pretty well developed too. This is sort of a secondary logging road that was overgrown that we sort of cut switchbacks into. But it's a great hike. Good exercise. It takes probably, doing the whole loop takes probably a little over an hour and a half to do. And the shorter ones probably, 45 minutes or something like that. So we're really excited about that. We have a bridge going over the river. We need to really, that's the area we need to work on, is there's a really steep slope going down to this bridge that I think we're ultimately going to need to build like some stairs into, basically. Yeah. So we have a path and a couple little sort of little dirt stairs cut in, so it's possible to get down. But I've been recommending that people hike it counterclockwise so that they're climbing up that hill instead of going down, because it is very steep. So yeah, work in progress, but it's really exciting. And that the very first part of the hike there hikes through this beautiful, it's sort of just on the edge of this riparian zone by the stream there. It's nice and flat. You can see down to the stream. It's really pretty in there. And there's some decent sort of views of the forest.
Mhm.
So there's really good hiking really close to the entrance, which is great.
Where's the access if you were gonna hike up for like the 30-mile trail that goes into Pittsfield, like along?
To go to the Taconic Crest Trail. So
Currently, or where we're hoping for?
I can show you both. So
Current access?
so this,
Yeah, so where's the current and where are you hoping for?
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to.
so this main road here, so this is an official gate, and there is a road we've got an official gate. This is all quite steep, but this is a road that I think people have been riding ATVs on.
It's not a cleared trail right now.
Okay.
It's not, the only accessible route is in Petersburg, New York, on Route 346.
That's what okay.
Mhm.
That's the current,
And this road, when I took the VYC like trail design up there, she was like, "This is too steep. You can't like this is too steep to be a real trail, basically." But it is possible to walk it. So what I typically do is I have been walking this trail and coming up along here and connecting
Fishing game came.
over here. So that this section here runs really close to the property line, and there's no trespassing signs that have been posted that would indicate trails on the other side. Because we found another little connector trail, I think it's not worth pursuing there, because we'd have to pay to get a survey done, and we might have an angry neighbor out of it. So instead, we're going to just cut into this trail over here, and then this is a tough section that we need to kind of work on. It's kind of it's like a goat path now. There's it's a social trail for hunters and stuff. And then once you hit here, this section is really steep, and we actually have to build trail. It's about, I think it's about 600 or 700 feet where there's nothing. And then you hit this super well developed road that goes up through the dry oak forest. Beautiful views on both sides. It's really stunning, and that goes just straight up to the ridge there. With minimal amount of trail work, because the road's really it's there. Most of it is actually trying to like drop trees in strategic places and like sort of brush in the trail to make it kind of narrower. So what that would give you is this awesome, it's like about a 6-mile hike where you can go up, hit the trail, and then come back down this way. And then the secondary reason we want to do this is to make sure that we get access down to Reservoir Valley, because currently like this is the quickest way that you can get down into the valley on the other side. So that's the goal. That's probably a few years from coming to fruition, but it is walkable and it's marked now. Like we had a trail designer go up there and I walked it with her, and so you can find your way if you're feeling really adventurous.
Really, really.
Like that's if you want to get on your hands and knees.
Yeah.
I did find where you guys have like flagged up.
Yeah.
And that trail, I mean, that is really gorgeous.
Mhm.
It's really special.
Mhm.
So I saw there.
I'm gonna hope somebody takes a lot of pictures, because I'm probably not going to.
Tell you the,
Share with me, please.
in the background are actually shots from inside the town forest, but yeah, I've got some really nice shots.
First one stuff was up there. Right?
Oh, yeah, I mean, all of these are, yeah, this one is actually, right, you can't see that, there's this really nice, rock under this tree that you can sit on and kind of look out over the valley, and this is actually on that little switchbacky trail that sort of connects up. And then that's also, that's actually of the dry oak forest, like up on that sort of ridge trail.
Oh,
there.
that's
It's
so cool.
awesome, it's so pretty.
It's really cool.
Yep, and in the, like, now that the trees are falling, once you get up there, you can get views really off both sides. So, yeah.
Cool. Anybody have any questions for me?
Wonderful. That's great. That's so helpful.
Jen, anybody, anything for Tessa now? Well, I want to thank you guys for, and all the organizations that you worked with. And all of your colleagues, Tessa, that helped you and whatever. These plans are incredibly informative for all of us. Right? And I think these plans should give the board a really great overview on how to continue moving forward, right? We'll wait for your next draft. Hopefully it's 48 pages now.
Yeah.
So, I think this has been super informative for me, it has,
Yep.
you know.
I appreciate how hands-on all of this is.
For
Right.
sure.
This is clearly, I really appreciate all the work that is very much like boots on the ground, literally.
Mhm.
And all the public listening sessions, I mean, everything. So I think this is really exciting going
Well,
forward.
and hopefully, I like the idea of sort of, we'll take all the comments we've gotten and we'll sort of work up a second draft, and then we'd love to share this sort of
Yeah.
with the public,
Yeah.
right? We
Right.
have another meeting, we'll sort of present the whole plan to them, get their feedback, and then that combined with your feedback will sort of form the like final draft, which obviously will be, sort of changed over time too.
Right, and I mean, it's always gonna be subject to change, right? Because, we're never gonna think of everything. Right, somebody's gonna
Yeah.
come something down the road. I just think that there's been so much thought and boots on the ground, and not just from an aerial photo. Or, you talking to me about a trail that went up through here or there or whatever. It's just, it's been really, there's a lot of effort, and I appreciate the effort. A lot of effort gone into this, for sure. And I will say that I don't think there's anything that anyone could say that you really miss. Right? Somebody out in the general public, or for that matter. I think everything's been covered here. We've asked for opinions from a lot of people. We gave people a lot of opportunities to come in, and talk about it and whatever, so.
I think the benefit of a steering committee is that we want to make sure that there's a group of people that don't take their eye off the ball as we move on and continue working on other projects.
Sure.
I mean, and that's what I see happen with a lot of other town boards, is like there's a select board that approves it, that knows all about it, and then life goes on and
Mhm.
it just disappears. I don't know, and then no one knows anything about it.
Donald's got a comment.
Thanks, Donald.
I don't know how good the sound is, but yeah, this is really, really great work. And, from BLT's perspective, we don't always see this kind of thorough planning, and it's really wonderful to be able to witness your process, Pownell. So great job. Keep it up, and we're here if you need us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don.
I do have one quick question. In zone 21, you said you found archaeological evidence. I was just curious what you found.
Well, yeah, so I didn't personally find anything, just in my discussions with other folks who have spent time there. I've heard that there's some foundation holes. There was a guy, many years ago in Powell who dug up a bunch of, artifacts that are in a little display case in the library, and many of those were.
I know the field across the river,
Uh-huh.
they used to find arrowheads like
Yeah,
every year after they plowed.
Yep.
Kids that I went to school with would always be bringing in arrowheads. They'd pick the field. So
Mhm.
I was just curious what had been found on the other side of the river.
Yeah, you don't know a whole heck of a lot, and the other element that's cool is this like Widow Krieger story. Like there was clearly a Dutch settlement right down along that river too.
I'll show you a map after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know from what I've been taught is that the river valley was just migratory,
Uh-huh.
that there was no permanent indigenous settlement. So I was just curious if something had been discovered.
No, I mean, yeah,
Otherwise.
it's nothing, there haven't been any kind of new developments in this. This was just sort of from previous information we found. So what we're hoping to do is work with Stockbridge, Muncie and Mohicans. And also, I think this might be a cool project for Williams College maybe to get involved in, is just to kind of really get in there and do a little bit of exploration and sort of figure out what's in there, where it is, and then sort of come up with a good plan to try and kind of protect it, and so we can study it further.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I personally haven't even been down there yet.
I just always assumed any earthworks that I'd ever seen going over through there were just from the original settlers that came into the area and went like original logging.
There's been a
Uh-huh.
lady that
I mean, I think that's like there's a lot of like earlier settlers.
we're running.
Yeah, because you have like the lime kitchens over off Quarry Hill Road and, the grist mills, the old log.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I know there's evidence of
Wait a second.
along Reservoir Hollow where they used to have the log.
No.
Well, you can see the old dams.
Yeah.
Hot logs.
My number.
Well, and I think it's so cool to have, like, that's where I really see an interpretive hike coming together, right? It's
I found it once, and then
that area, learn about.
I tell you what.
Dam,
That and a bunch of
the
them. on there.
the Native Americans, it like tells the whole story, the history of our town, kind of all in this one, like, really kind of finite location.
All right, let's do.
So yeah, it's really, I'm looking forward to getting.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually excited to hear about that.
Yeah.
In that zone there, so I was just curious if.
Yeah.
It was all.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know you can provide that.
That's a
Yeah,
good thing.
seen anything like.
Yeah, like that's like right through there, zone 21, like that's right there.
Mhm.
You live on
That's
Wood.
awesome. Well, yeah, I know some of it came from Jim Henderson at BCRC.
Okay,
He was one of the guys who mentioned that he had found some foundation holes, sort of scattered around the property.
Okay.
Yep.
yeah, I would have thought any foundation holes would have been like old settlements and from like settlers.
Yeah,
That kind of stuff.
yeah, I'm not sure.
Do that if you know. What's the rules?
All right, if nothing else, maybe public comment, Hannah? No hands up?
I'm really glad to see though, that many people
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
paying attention. That's pretty great.
Yeah. Okay, if we don't have any public comment, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will move to.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks for all the input.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.